You do a very good job. So welcome everybody. It's good to have people back here again. I look forward to these monthly get-togethers when I see so many familiar faces and also some new ones from time to time. So thank you very much for joining. As Rajesh says, it is starting time, so we will make a start by first of all introducing today's speaker. I have some notes here about Dr. Shoba Sriram. Welcome, Dr. Shoba. We're very pleased to have you here, and we know we're going to have a very good session with you.
My pleasure.
I'm very impressed by what Dr. Shoba has done over the years, including establishing a number of resource centres or resource rooms in Bangalore, some of which I believe I might have even visited in the recent past. She's worked very closely with parents, which is very commendable, parents particularly who are working under some strain. And she's acted as a mentor to a number of special educators as well. This is very important work, and I'm sure everybody has benefited from her expertise, as we're going to today. So today she's going to be talking to us about metacognitive activities, particularly those for strengthening working memory. A very important issue, I'm sure everybody will agree. We're looking forward to hearing this, but can we please all make sure we abide by the usual rules? Please make sure that your microphones are all muted through this session. We won't interrupt the session at all. There will be an opportunity to ask questions at the end. So when Shoba has finished her presentation, I will ask people to raise their hands with the facility at the bottom of their screen if they have a question to ask, or put a question in the comments box if you don't want to actually speak. And I'll take questions in turn then and chair the final question and answer session. So please, microphones off and cameras off as well, because that assists too. And I'm now going to hand over to Dr. Shoba Sriram to take us through today's session. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Richard Rose. A very good evening to all of you. And thank you for Dr. Rajesh for giving me this opportunity to present a very small piece of work, which is very close to my heart. And I hope I'm able to share some insights on the same. Yeah. So I'm just going to be sharing my screen now. And maybe we'll take it forward from there. Yeah. Is the screen visible to all of you, sir?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay. So working memory. Working memory was, one topic that was always a very intriguing area of work for me from the time I think I started working with children. So knowingly or unknowingly, I also realized that when we did small activities with these children, the turnaround in terms of their learning potentials just increased. They learned faster, they learned better, there was better retention and hence better recall. So this was one area which always was, an area of interest for me, and was my go-to area when I used to start remedial work. Like all of us that we know who work with children with learning disability, or when we work with children with attention issues, children who fall under the umbrella of ADD or ADHD, we know for a fact that because these children have an inadequate working memory is where these children falter. These children falter with their learning. These children falter with their reading. They falter with their comprehension. They falter with their retention, so on and so forth. So what is actually then working memory? So working memory is like a post-it note for all of us. Like each one of us, when we go out or when we have a list of things that we have to do, whether it is at work or whether it is at home. We kind of chalk it out and we say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is how I'm going to be doing it. So that's exactly how the working memory is also for us in our system. So it's a small note that we make for us. We complete our task and it's done for it's done for that point of time. So it operates for a very few seconds, exactly like how our post-it notes are. Once the job is done, it goes into the dustbin. So working memory, the capacity, the operating time is only for a few seconds, and it stores the information temporarily. It helps us manipulate that information to be able to do the task on hand. And what it most importantly requires is attention, right? So like, for example, when we all log into our banking accounts or banking websites, or when we have a parcel which is going to come and they ask for an OTP, we try to memorize it at that point of time. We finish the task and it's gone. So it's like a temporary storage. So working memory is a temporary storage for us, right? So this was first given by Baddeley and Hitch way back in 1974. And what the model stated was that a working memory has something called as a phonological loop. It has something called as a visuospatial sketchpad. It has something like which is called as the central executive, and it's called as the episodic buffer. So the working memory basically is made up of these 4 parts. So let me try to quickly run through each of these parts. Now, phonological loop, as the name suggests, it is all information manipulation in your working memory that comes through your auditory channel. What you say, what you repeat, and what you do. There is no visual input when you have to do these activities. So, for example, when a teacher in classroom is explaining, let's say, a story, or let's say she's explaining a concept, or she's explaining a definition, without a blackboard or without a textbook, or the children have shut the textbook and it's under the desk and the teacher is explaining it, then all that information that comes into you is your phonological loop that is manipulating the information for you to be able to do the task on hand. The visuospatial sketchpad, as the name suggests, is everything visual. So when the teacher is using the blackboard to explain a concept, you see, you learn, and you do the task. Or for example, or even when you have to write something, when you have to draw something, the visuospatial sketchpad is into play. When you have to copy from the blackboard, the visuospatial sketchpad is in play. So working memory, visuospatial sketchpad takes care of anything and everything that comes visually for you to be able to do the task on hand. Now, central executive, as the name suggests, is like a manager. So, for example, let's say that all of us are waiting at the the yellow box.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I think. Is it visible now, sir?
Yes, madam.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so, okay. So going back to a quick a run through of what the theoretical framework given by Baddeley and Hitchin way back in 1974, as I was explaining, that it has 4 parts. You have the phonological loop, you have the visuospatial sketchpad, central executive, and episodic buffer. So I'm going to just quickly run through each of the part of working memory as given by them. Now, phonological loop, as the name suggests, these are all information that is processed in your working memory, which comes through your auditory channel. What is being said, what is being heard is being processed by the working memory. So, for example, let's say I am trying to open my banking account and my OTP comes on my phone, and I just ask my son, just open up and tell me the OTP number, and he rattles off 6 numbers. I quickly by heart it, I enter it, and I finish it. So that's essentially the phonological loop which is in play for me to do the task on hand. So in a classroom situation, then it is, imagine the children taking a spelling dictation. The teacher tells the spelling of, write down the spelling of because. She repeats it 2 or 3 times, the spell because, and the children have to write down the spelling of because. So that's phonological loop. Now, what is visual spatial sketchpad? When the teacher writes something on the blackboard or the teacher draws something on the blackboard, and when the child has to copy, it's all about directions. The visual spatial sketchpad of the working memory helps us do the task on hand. So it's like how we follow the Google Maps to reach our destinations. Now, central executive, as the name suggests, central executive acts like a manager. The most important role of central executive is to exercise selective attention. Now, what is selective attention for? Now, imagine a classroom where the teacher is orally explaining what the homework is all about, while also writing on the blackboard that for tomorrow's craft activity, you will have to bring sketch pens, you have to bring color pencils, you have to bring glue, you have to bring color paper, chart paper. She's explaining the activity and she's also writing it. And at the same time, the bell goes for the next class. But here, so the central executive comes into play, where the children do not focus, or rather should not focus on the bell, rather focus on the teacher, what she is saying, what she's writing on the blackboard, for them to note it down, understand the activity, so that they're ready for the next class. So the selective attention is that of not paying attention to the bell that has gone, but rather pay attention to what the teacher is giving instructions in terms of the oral and also in terms of what is being written on the blackboard. So that's central executive. As the name suggests, acts like an executive manager, managing information coming from both the auditory and the visual channel. Now, what is episodic buffer? Now, we also realize that while children come into the classroom, there is a certain amount of knowledge bank that they all come in, and as they progress, we keep adding and expanding their knowledge horizon, right? Now, so let's take the example of a classroom situation where children know their numbers and the teacher is going to introduce what is odd number and what is even number. Now, if the child is having the knowledge of numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and the child has to understand the concept of odd number and even number, what does the child do? He draws out from the long-term memory the knowledge of numbers to be able to understand where is the odd number placed, where is the even number placed. So at this point of time, the working memory works as a complete mechanism, as a complete machinery, where there is auditory input by the teacher explaining what is odd number, even number. There is also a visual input by way of what she writes on the blackboard. The central executive at the same time is managing these two information and also helping to draw from your long-term memory, that is the episodic buffer, to be able to understand the new concept of what is odd, what is even. It is the small little pieces of phonological loop, the small little piece of information from the visual spatial sketchpad, and the small piece of information which is from in your long-term memory is drawn out from the episodic buffer, and then the information is processed so that the child is able to understand how the odd numbers are placed and how the even numbers are placed, right? So, so that's the theoretical framework. Now, although all these words, all put together is only about 8 or 9 words, the mechanism is extremely complex, and for us, it all seems so very effortless. It all seems so very easy while we are manipulating the information. But just imagine a child in classroom, or a child who has a learning disability or a learning disability, or the child is diagnosed with ADD or an ADHD. So how do we see these as a manifestation in class, right? Most children, if you observe, ask for extra time, and they ask for repetition of instruction. They have difficulty in staying engaged in class, in group activities, because the teacher, especially if you will see, it has been very interesting for me, in my school scenario, where the children would be in the PT class. The teacher is giving counts of 1, 2, 3, 4, and the PT teacher is also giving directions. So there is a visual input. There is also an auditory input of numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. So while everybody is raising a hand, the child who has difficulty with working memory, you will see that the child is going, horizontal instead of going vertical. When all the children are asked to turn to the right, this child will turn to the left. So it's very interesting, and these were the, probably the feeders for me to dig deep into this whole working memory as a topic for my PhD. Okay, they also have a lot of difficulty in following multi-step instruction. So the class teacher comes in and says that, okay, put in your social studies notebooks and textbook inside, and pull out your science textbook, open, go to page 3 where we left yesterday. We are going to start doing that exercise. Lot of information, overloading of information. The child would have barely put his social book inside, and then he would be lost, not knowing what he's supposed to do. So he tends to also not forget instructions in the literal sense, but it's only if it is there in the working memory can the child process. Oh, working memory it's not registered there for the child to process. So that is an indication of a weak working memory or an inadequate working memory. You'll invariably find these children extremely disorganized, very sloppy, inconsistent in their work, not being able to complete the task on hand, especially the blackboard work. They are unable to monitor their quality of work. And also, they will also constantly need to reread their text to be able to remember what he has to do next for that activity which is there in his notebook. Very interestingly, if you will see that, maths, which is very, very process driven, one step after the other. If you would have observed that the child will add the ones place, will carry over to in the tens place, and he will invariably forget the carryover. He will add the other 2 numbers and write the answer. Most children forget that step has to be done. It's not that he's forgetting it intentionally or he's forgetting it. It's just that step 1, step 2, step 3, that order is not fully, I would say, rehearsed, is not registered in the working memory for it to be processed to go into the short-term and long-term memory. So hence, you will see that disorganized, sloppy, inconsistent work in children. And which is why, if you will see children with learning disability, when they struggle with reading, when they read word by word, there is so much of effort in trying to read the word, for them to register that word, process what that word means, and to be able to connect the dots, to be able to understand the paragraph of his own, is extremely overwhelming, is asking for too much with the child, because he has an inadequate working memory. So these are the typical manifestations that you will see in classroom, also in some of the regular children, and also definitely in children who have difficulty with learning. Yeah. So hence, there was this need for the study, for me to take this forward. So when I realized that, there used to be some children who used to get referred to the special educators in the resource room in the schools that I have worked earlier, saying that, Shoba, this child was fine until class 1 and class 2, but now suddenly he seems to have dropped. There seems to be an issue with the child. He's not completing his work. He's not finishing his blackboard work. Can we do something about it? And I realized that when we did all these small activities of strengthening that working memory, we've seen children turn around. We've seen that children are performing better in class. They're optimizing their potentials. They're optimizing their capacities. And as an example, we used to do this reading program for grade 1 children who would come in after their UKG, and most often grade 1 invariably tends to be a little overwhelming from them, because for them, from the comfort of reading 2-letter, 3-letter words, to switching to read big words, big paragraphs from their English textbook and social studies textbook, we've seen children suddenly, have a difficulty. So we started something called as a reading program for grade 1 students. And what we did was, as a pilot program, I said, okay, when we do the reading program, as an entry behavior into the class, we would do some working memory activities. So for example, what we used to do, we used to have the children to repeat nonsensical words which had no connection with each other. We used to randomly have numbers, told in a particular order. We used to have names of fruits, names of vegetables, names of vehicles, or just names of girls and boys to be repeated in a particular order. So for example, what we used to do is, we used to have the children, we used to give an instruction saying that I'm going to be repeating a sequence of 5 colors in a particular order. I'm going to repeat it only 3 times. Listen carefully and repeat it in the same order. So this was to strengthen the auditory channel, the phonological loop of working memory, for them to be able to do the task. So we would say red, blue, green, white, yellow, red, blue, green, white, yellow, red, blue, green, white, yellow, and pick children randomly and say, okay, now student A, please tell me the sequence in which I repeated the names of the colors. And the child had to repeat it. The same thing, we would also do it on the blackboard, where we would have numbers written, no oral instructions. We would just have the child to read the numbers. So we would have written numbers like 24, 37, 42, 59, 99 on the blackboard. We would erase it and now pick any one child and say, okay, what were the numbers that were written? Okay, so these were the small activities that we did, and slightly by the end of the academic year, we would also do a little advanced working memory strategies. So for example, the same numbers that we wrote, we used to tell the children, okay, what did I write before 24? What was the last number? What was the first number? What was after 48? So if the child did not pay attention, it would be difficult for him. So strengthening right from the beginning of the academic year, the working memory, and going forward, we saw children improve their capacity to be able to retain information, to be able to do the task on hand. It also helped them read better. It also helped them comprehend better. So this was also one of my needs, because when I felt that if these strategies were working with children, then why not do it as a research topic and establish the same thing. And true for a fact, we would get feedback from the mainstream teachers saying that, no, Shoba, these strategies have worked, it is helping. So just to make an add-on here, so what we used to do is, a special educator, and I do it even now today in the school that I'm attached to it. So I give them a set of activities that they can do in their classrooms without burdening their otherwise huge, big responsibility of, their core academics and completion of portion and so on and so forth. So say, okay, if you're going to be teaching the parts of the plant in class, and you enter, your maths class is finished and you are entering, and you want the class to settle down so that they focus in you. So you say, okay, you've taught the parts of the plant. You say root, stem, branch, leaves, flowers, fruits. If that's the progression you have taught, okay, say that, okay, I'm going to repeat the sequence of the parts of the plant. I'm going to be picking one student who is going to be telling me the names of the parts of the plant. So this way, what happens is, the children who are a little disorganized, the children who are a little lost, the children who are not paying attention, we also are aware, the mainstream teachers are aware that the children who are a little distractible, who are not paying attention. So catch that one child and say, okay, today I'm going to have X student get up and going to be telling me the names of all these parts. I've repeated it 3 times, listen carefully, and we are going to be repeating it. So these small exercises, when equipped, when are given to the class teachers to be able to do it, they actually found it very interesting, because they didn't have to make any investment in terms of time, in terms of energy, in making a plan on how they need to go and execute it. So these were some strategies that were given to the mainstream teachers to be able to help children get their focus, to be able to revise the topic that they taught the previous class, so that they can move on going forward into their topic. So all this put together is what brought the need for my study. Yeah. So then what I did was, I quickly then put it, say that there will be a significant improvement. What I did was, the population that I worked with was grade 3, 4, and 5. I had a total of about 90 students, where I divided them into an experimental and control group of 45 students. And to the experimental group, I did the pre-test. Both experimental and control group, I did my pre-test and post-test. And to the experimental group, we did the intervention. And I hypothesized, saying that there will be a significant difference in their working memory. There will be hypothesized that there will be no significant difference in the working memory before and after the intervention. So when I did a quick review of the literature, what I also realized that working memory was being dealt with either from the phonological loop perspective, it was either dealt with the visual spatial perspective, or it was only dealt with as an executive function for improving reading, for improving problem solving, for improving mathematical skills, for improving comprehension. Now, if you see in a regular classroom, it's all of this put together, all the 4 components of working memory put together, and all of the academic areas. It could be reading, it could be comprehension, it is problem solving, it is math skills, it's language, it's vocabulary, it's all of that, right? So what I saw as a gap here was working memory is being dealt with, a lot of research on working memory, lot of research, a lot of strategies to improve working memory, but only for reading, only for spellings, only for comprehension. It was all in isolated bits and parts. It was not taken as a complete component, and that's what gave me the answer to funnel out what my problem was. So the problem that I then put forth was, I would come up with strategies that will strengthen working memory, and that would also strengthen the learning capacities as a whole, so that the child is able to read better, the child is able to comprehend better, the child is able to retain better, and the child is able to recall better. And hence, his grades, the child could be, maybe getting a 3 on 10 or a 4 on 10, graduates to getting a 5 and 6 on 10. I'm not saying that he will graduate to a 10 on 10. No, but at least optimize the capacity in the child to be able to become better learners when they grow up and when they have to deal with complex curriculum. Yeah. So this was quickly the methodology that I followed. I think I'm running short of time, so I'm going to run through this a little. So as I said, I had a total of 90 students. I worked with the CBSE children. And what I did was, I also had a teacher questionnaire for the teachers, so that the children whom I identify, the teachers are also, we understood what were the manifestations in classroom. So based on the manifestations, I came up with a questionnaire for the teachers, for them to say that, yes, these are the kind of behaviors that I am observing in this particular child, so that I could include him in my study. So I had a pre-test, I had a post-test. So pre-test to identify if there was a difficulty with working memory, a pre-test from the teachers to say that, yes, these are the behaviors that I am observing, which probably are indicative of a poor working memory. And then what I did was also an intermittent test to just see if I am on track in terms of, once I've identified my children, once I start my intervention, to see if I'm on track. Then I did a post-test. So the post-test was to check how much the working memory has improved, and also from the teacher's perspective, that does she see a difference in the classroom? Because at the end of the day, no matter what intervention I do on a one-to-one basis or as a group activity, the child has to perform in a classroom of 40. So a teacher questionnaire to understand if she has a distance, and also a delayed post-test. A delayed post-test I did after close to about 1 month, to see if the strategies that I taught to help the children learn better, to help the children read better, comprehend better, are they sustaining those strategies? Are they still using it, or have they forgotten after the post-test? So it was very interesting. I shall share my findings with you. It was very interesting that, yes, interesting findings that, yes, there has been a some flavor which has lingered through after a month also, and we see that it has become kind of a muscle memory for them to be able to use those strategies. So what were the tools that I developed? I developed a test to identify where the gaps in working memory was. I developed a teacher perception rating scale, a questionnaire, and I also developed an intervention module. Intervention module. Yeah. So what were the strategies? Yeah. So I'm going to, yeah. So this is how I went about. Yeah. So this is how I went about doing it. I reviewed my existing working memory standardized, existing standardized working memory tests. And based on that, see, because since I knew I was going to be dealing with an Indian population, I was going to be dealing with the CBSE schools. It was also important for me, and I was also dealing with the progression of the students in the academic scene, where they are going to be dealing with the entire thing as a whole. It was important for me to also have a criteria to select my items which will go into the working memory. So there was a content validation which I was done. The tool was revised. The reliability was established using a test retest platform, and finally we implemented the tool. So this was a standard which I followed for developing the tool to identify gaps in working memory, and also development of my intervention module and my teacher perception rating scale. So what were the strategies that I used for for strengthening each component of the working memory? So the first one was a repetition and rehearsal. I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and I'm going to also share a screen where I will quickly show a couple of activities that I did for each of the areas of working memory. So just give me a minute. Yeah. So my pre-test tool for the phonological loop. Yeah. So I'm going to show you the activities here. So then I think it will be. Is this screen visible, sir?
Yes, madam.
Yeah. Okay. So quickly to run through the activities. So we went from for the phonological loop, as I said, was all about auditory. So we had the tests, that items that we included for screening out children with a poor working memory was, how the children are able to recall their words, how the children are able to follow instructions, and a listening comprehension activity. For the visual spatial, it was a memory game activity. It was also about remembering the position of the dots on a grid, and also following the pattern and replicating that pattern to be able to replicating that pattern which the child has seen. Now, for central executive, what is most important, like I suggested, was selective attention. So spot the difference was definitely an activity which where the child has to selectively pay attention on, let's say if it is a picture of a joker, then the child has to selectively pay attention to the face, to the body, to the legs, to the background. So selectively pay attention to each part and then say that yes, these are the things which are different. Also count, remember, and say aloud. So what I had done was I had two sets of shapes. I had circle, I had triangle. So the child had to remember, count as 1, 2, 3, 3 circles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 triangles, and then say, I saw three circles and 5 triangles. And invariably, it was interesting to see that the children used to mix up, would say 5 circles and 3 triangles. It was very interesting to see how that inadequate working memory, we could see that in play when I did the pre-test activity to screen out children. And finally, picking out the odd sentence from a story. So I had very simple 5 or 7 sentence stories. And along with those 5 and 7 sentences, I had cutouts of those sentences along with distractions. So there was totally about 10 sentences which I would give the child. And the child had to pick up only those sentences which was a part of the story that I had told him. So there was auditory in play, there was visual in play in terms of the sentences which I had given to him, and selective attention in play to be able to pick out only those sentences which was a part of the story. So again, it was very interesting to see how children would mix up the sequence or add the unnecessary sentence which was a part of that story. And finally, the episodic buffer, how long-term memory comes into play. So I had 4 pictures, 1 word. So I had different kind of chairs as a picture, and I had to, if I'm able to quickly show you that, I will run through that. Yeah. So this is how it was. I hope this is visible. Yeah, so 4 pictures. So different kind of, play activity balls which were there. One was a football, one was a basketball, one was a tennis ball, and one was a cricket ball. But everything meant that it's a ball, it's an item that the children used to use it for play. So this was the 4 pick 1 word activity that they had to do. Yeah. Fill in the blanks using the given picture clue. So this is something similar to a cloze activity where there were pictures and the child had to recall the spelling of that picture. So there were spellings like butterfly, there was spelling like elephants, which the child had to fill in the blanks and do the activity. And last was a listen, true or false recall statement, where I say that the sun rises in the west. So the child had to think and say that no, had to say a false, and then also give me the correct sentence that the sun rises in the east. So I had about 7 to 9 sentences like that to see if the child is able to recall from his long-term memory to be able to answer the question. So I had very, very close sentences where the child can mix up. Say, for example, I would say that milk is the cow gives us milk. So the buffalo gives us milk. The camel gives us milk. So everything was same, and the child had to say if it's a true sentence or a false sentence, because most times the child would not connect saying that a camel can also give a milk, the goat can also give a milk. So those were the points which were kept in mind while I developed the items for my pre-test. So based on this, once I identified my children for the experimental group, then came the intervention. Now the intervention for me personally was perhaps my the best part of this, because it was very heartening to see how children were able to turn around with the activities. So what I did was the strategies which I used. I'm going to again stop sharing this screen and I'm going to go back to the presentation. Sorry, I'm going too much back and forth. Yeah. Yeah. So going back to the strategies, what I also did was all these strategies, I spaced it over the 4 areas. I dealt with each area separately in my intervention, and I went and I progressed it because that way it is not overwhelming for the children. So for the phonological and the visual spatial sketchpad, I kept it very simple, where I taught them how it is important to repeat, rehearse, so that they are able to hold the information in the working memory and then recall the same. And then once I knew that they were able to repeat up to 7 items, they were able to rehearse up to 7 items, and they were able to recall up to 7 items, I then introduced the strategy of chunking, where, for example, if I gave a spelling like because, Because. Now the child knew how he can repeat, how he can rehearse. But if it's a big spelling with more than 8, 9, 10 alphabets, then I also taught the child how he can break it into chunks in a manner that every chunk has got 2 or 3 items in it. But we're also fooling the brain to say that no, there are only 3 chunks, but each chunk has got 2 or 3 items. So breaking it into 3 chunks and then helping the child remember, memorize, repeat, rehearse, and then recall, it became very interesting for the children. So repetition, recalling, chunking, essentially I taught these strategies in the phonological and visual spatial sketchpad areas when I dealt with for intervention, and then graduated to staying focused for the central executive, which is most important. So again, I used activities like find the difference, find the odd man out, how the child has to be able to see, remember, and also listen to the story to be able to do the activities. And finally came the more complex strategy of categorization, organization, elaboration, which I dealt with in the episodic buffer, where the child had to draw from his long-term memory. So that is where I introduced activities like odd man out, what comes next, giving analogies, close activity where the child has to map the spelling to the picture and write the spelling, cause and effect, that what could have caused that child to fall down, maybe because he did not see the water on the road and hence he slipped and fell down. How to identify the main idea, how to problem solve, read a problem to be able to understand that yes, I have 4 chocolates, my mother gave me 10 chocolates, and how many chocolates do I have in all? So the problem solving, where the child has to identify the operation to do, not the computation per se, but the operation to be able to do. So holding that information was beneficial because I had done repetition, rehearsal, and chunking strategies for them while I dealt with the earlier 2 areas of working memory. Identifying the main idea, using of Venn diagrams to say what is common, what is uncommon, and then come up with understanding the specific features of the 2 items for which we drew out the Venn diagram, compare and contrast for the final episodic buffer. And what was interesting here then to see was how from the pre-test to the post-test, if I had to share my statistical results, it was interesting to see that from the pre-test to the post-test, there was a significant difference. And how did I establish the significant difference? By seeing their, yes. So because I also wanted to map it to their academic performance and improvement in their academic scores. If you saw that in July when I did my pre-test and I had collected my data of their academic scores, they all averaged at about a 47. And from there, by the end of the annual, they had moved almost close to about 10 points. The graph is very, very clearly visible. The blue graph, which got the intervention, they've had progressed. We saw children actually use those strategies in their academic work. And this was also established, especially when I did the delayed post-test just before the annual exam. I had finished my data collection sometime by end Jan, and the entire February was where the children had to go back and revise their portions for their exam. And in March, when they were doing their revision activity in school, I went back to do the delayed post-test, and it was very, very heartening to see that yes, that these children are able to hold on to the strategies for better learning. In fact, there have been after a year or so, this summer when I went back to one of the schools where I had gone for data collection, I do their summer camps. So this time when I had gone to for the summer camp, I actually had children coming back and saying, ma'am, I actually use your chunking strategy now to learn my science topics. I have bigger science topics. I have big circulatory system and the working of circulatory system, which I have to learn. And it's actually helping me to do so even after 2 years, when I hear children say that, yes, I am using those strategies, it's extremely heartening. And I see that my effort of my PhD is definitely bearing roots and bearing fruits in children to become better learners. So that was in a nutshell the conclusion. Before I conclude, also in terms of the teacher perception, what they saw as a manifestation of an inadequate working memory, the teachers saw a progression and an improvement in the students, where they said, hey Shoba, now the child at least writes 4 out of 5 times, he at least finishes his blackboard work. He's not so sloppy. He is able to follow instructions in class. I see him pay attention in class. So this was the teacher's perception at the end of my data collection, when I had finished my data collection and I got them to, as a post-test, when I got them to fill up the form and give it back to me. So it was very heartening to see that, yes, most children benefited out of this program. Most children seem to have improved in terms of their academic scores. They seem to be using it even now, as I shared as an anecdote, where I go back to do a summer camp. So yes, so in all, I see that the outcome of the working memory has definitely helped, as a conclusion, has improved the working memory. It has improved their academic achievements. The teachers also saw an improvement in the classroom as the children had started getting better before and after the intervention. And most importantly, the strategies that we use to train the working memory were found to be most effective. Now, one last point which I want to definitely show here was, so while I was developing my tools for my PhD, it was the COVID year. And when online was the thing of way of learning, or whether it is, whether it was high school or whether it was preschool or middle school or even adults. So that is where I felt, why not incorporate some metacognitive strategy using online, using some computer-aided instruction, so that I'm also able to hold the child's interest. I'm also able to help students learn the task better, for better recall and retention. So I'm going to be quickly taking you to one of the activity which I did for the students.
Can you please make sure it is quick? We've overrun time, really. Okay.
Yeah. So this is the just one activity, because if it's going to take time, maybe I'll share it on the WhatsApp group. Maybe you can just click on it and run through it and play over it. I think it's taking a little time to load. I think I'm going to be stop sharing, and I will share that screen. Is the screen visible to all?
No, it's not at the moment.
Yeah, okay. Yes, now it will be visible. Yeah, I don't know, for some reason I'm not able to open that. It's not showing that screen. Yeah, maybe what I can do is, sir, we're running short of time. I'll probably share these links on the WhatsApp group, so that you are able to quickly run through those. You can just it just takes 2 minutes for us to just play the game. and maybe you will
Okay,
have.
I think that would be
Yeah,
helpful as we've run out of
yeah.
time, really.
Yeah. So so this has been a very close topic for me, and yeah, so with that I've had to rush through this presentation because of the technical glitch, but that's in a nutshell all the activities, and that's how I did my entire that was my topic of my PhD that I worked with. Yes, so I'm good to go, and I'm ready to take questions. Am I audible?
Yes, madam.
Yeah. So yes, sir. So that brings us to the end of the presentation, and so I'm good to go and take questions if there are any.
You're back again. I keep losing. We've had some very unusual issues, I think, this meeting. Perhaps I could start with, you had these 90 students, grades 3 to 5.
Yes.
After you finished the work, were you able to say anything about retention in these students? Did they retain their learning after the program was finished?
Yes, because what I did was also, while I taught these strategies to them to strengthen their working memory, I also incorporated the same strategies. I helped them because every time there would be a unit test or there would be a midterm exam, I have taken topics, lessons from their own subject matter, and I have taught them how they could use their strategies, and the retention was visible in the way they answered their questions. They were not, it was not 100%, but yes, the answers were definitely better than the previous test that they probably took in August, when they took a test sometime in maybe a November or a December. So like I said, their scores from maybe a 3 on 10 or a 4 on 10, we saw a progression to a 5 and a 6 on 10. We saw better retention in the students. Yes, we did see.
Okay, thank
The
you.
marks spoke for the improvement. The grades spoke for their improvement.
Okay, there are a couple of questions I see in the message boxes. Madhavi Belpu asks, how do you teach chunking for a topic?
Yeah, that's so what I did was I color code one way of teaching. So that's something what I do for as chunking for students, where I have to teach them. I had to teach them parts of the plant, right? So what I did was I chunked them, saying that under the ground as brown color, above the ground I said the stem and the branches, I made them into light green, and then the fruits and the flowers, I made it of any color. Let's say, for example, if I did it for a mango tree, I said, okay, mangoes, fruits, flowers, they'll all be orange color. So the child had to remember brown, green, and orange. So brown is the root, green is your stem and branches, and the orange is the fruit and the flowers. So that way you can chunk, you can color code and use and teach chunking to children, and or give numbers. Let's say you're at ground zero level, so that's roots. You're at first floor, so you say that that's the stem and the branches, and then you say the second floor will be your fruits and the flowers. So use these numbers, use color codes to be able to teach chunking to children. Yeah.
Okay, we have one other question as well, which is rather medical and may not be within your remit, but a question about, from Uma Krishnan. Are medications that can be suggested helpful for memory improvement?
I am sorry, sir. As you rightly said, it's very medical, and I don't think I should be able to share
That might
yeah.
And then just a point of clarification, one further down here, Shagufazora asks, is short-term memory the same as working memory?
No, short-term memory is not similar to working memory. Working memory is all about here and now for you to do your task on hand. And only if your working memory is adequate will that information move into your short-term memory for you to be able to recall. Say, for example, if you've made your list saying that I'm going to the grocery store and I have to buy bread, eggs, fruits, a toothbrush, and washing soap. So you rehearse it for that point of time. You go, you finish the work, and then you come back. Now, if I have reversed, if I have an adequate working memory, I have rehearsed it enough. Then the next day when I ask, what did you do in the shopping? What did you do in the grocery store? Yeah, I had to buy some bread, eggs. I had to buy fruits. I had to buy toothbrush, a toothpaste, and I had to buy some soap. So only when your working memory is adequate and you process it enough, does it move into your short-term memory. So that exactly happens in your classroom also. If the child has an adequate working memory and he has rehearsed it well, he should be able to come back and tell you what he learned the previous day. Inadequate memory what goes into your short-term is half-baked cake, and what goes into your long-term is perhaps very little or nothing for the child to be able to write in his answer sheet when he has to give an exam. Yes. I hope I've answered that enough.
Well, thank you very much. I'm aware that we've come over our time. So can I just say thank you very much to Shoba for a most interesting presentation, and to Rajesh for his organization. And Rajesh, can I hand over to you just to close everything for us, please?
There's a hand raised by Jayanti ma'am.
Ah, right. Okay. Sorry, Janti, did you want to come in quickly? Janti Narayan, Dr. Narayan, are you there somewhere? No, we're not.
We're waiting to hear from her. Yeah.
Okay, it seems that we have been having a number of technical issues this session, for which I do apologize. But Rajesh, I'm going to hand back to you just to close the session, I think, please. We lost Rajesh as well.
Yes, no, sir, I'm there. Thank you. Thank you, Richard, sir, for yet another chairing this session, and Dr. Shoba, ma'am. Thank you for your wonderful presentation about the work which you have done. And I'm seeing some message from Jayanti, ma'am. She says
her microphone is not. Yeah, you could type out your message, ma'am. If there's anything we could quickly help you with.
I think only congrats and all the best. So yeah. Very good initiative.
Yeah.
Yes, today we had a lot of technical issues. I don't know why it happened. Technology, yes, we cannot fully depend on technology. Sometimes it happens. So thank you so much. I take this opportunity to thank mentor Professor Richard Rose sir and Dr. Jayanti Narayan madam, along with Professor Sujata Bahan madam, Member Secretary Dr. Himanshu Das sir, my coordinators Dr. Nitika and Dr. Anamika. And thank you all for joining. Sujata ma'am, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have a question. I just wanted to say hello to Jayanti ma'am. I'm seeing her after a very long time, and Himanshu sir. So my greetings, my namaskar to both of them. And yes, it was indeed a very good session. Shoba is always very, passionate about her work, and she's delivered this session with the same passion that I have seen all through while she did this work. So I want to congratulate her for that.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. So on that note, as my closing thought.
Jayanti ma'am, wait, Shoba, before you close.
My mic has started to work.
Yes.
Mic had started. I do not know what the problem was. Sorry for joining late also for the same reason, technological glitches. This old lady is not at par with the today's technological development. So I'm asking for excuse. Shobaji, that was a fantastic presentation. And I think this is
Thank you so
what
much.
teachers need. Teachers really need
True.
strategies. They know
True
I'm
that.
dealing with a child who doesn't have a visible disability but has difficulties in learning, and I don't know what to do. This is what I keep hearing all the time. And this was a fantastic presentation. You not only presented your research work, but also taught a lot of theoretical information that a teacher would need. And then you then said, yes, these works, and this is what my statistics show you. See, so it works. So authentic intervention strategies you have given, and that was really, really fantastic. It was a great presentation, and many have asked for the chat box, asked for the PPTs, and
I will be more than happy to share all my strategies, ma'am.
And want to be in touch with you, perhaps to learn more. 1 hour is only the sample that we have seen of the
True,
tip
I
of
was
the
just going to
iceberg.
say that.
Yeah. So there
It's
is
just
much.
the prasad of the whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
people
We
know
can
that.
go
here
on
is a
and on
person-
about her work.
Yeah, here is a person we can contact, is how they'll be feeling now in case they have these children to work with. Fantastic work. And nice to meet you also, Sujata, after a long time.
Yes.
And
So-
my
Yeah.
namaskar to everyone. Richard, sorry that I joined late because the computer wouldn't cooperate with me. So finally I managed, and I'm glad it worked so that I didn't miss the session.
Yes, you could see. Yeah.
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 So,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Rajesh, and thank you so much, Professor Richard Rose. All I would say is my entire PhD has probably seen the light of the day because of Professor Sujata Ban. She's been like the driving force for me. She's been like the engine for me to, from the start till the end. And it's been I think I'd probably be one of the odd person who says that I thoroughly enjoyed my PhD. No matter, with all their ups and downs, I thoroughly enjoyed. The COVID period, I would say, was a silver lining for me because I spent 2 years developing my entire tool. So the activities that I could come up was really, really very well thought of in terms of how the children would react to it. So I thoroughly enjoyed and I thoroughly cherish the work that I've done, and I'm hoping to reach out to as many people as possible to be able to share the work that I have done, and it benefits more teachers and more children.
Shobaji, have you published it already? Have you published it
Yes,
already?
it is on Shodh Ganga. It is on Shodh Ganga.
Ganga.
The work is on
She
Shodh
still
Ganga.
has to publish a paper on this. I mean,
Right, that's right. Yeah.
And she has not done that. Now, I think now
So
that
that's
I'm
what I was
back,
asking. So it has a
will finish
further
that.
reach out. When you publish it, it reaches.
Yes, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Now that I have retired, so I'm going to now work on it because she has no time. I've been chasing her.
You'll have
for
more work, Sujata. Don't worry. You'll have more work. Don't say
Yeah.
happily I'm retired. You're going to work more.
Yeah, all right. So without taking any more time, thank you, Dr. Rajesh, and thank you, Professor Richard Rose, for allowing, for giving me this opportunity to present my work on this platform. So thank you so much, and
as usual,
thank you.
organizing
Yeah,
also.
thank you so much.